Over the past few months, I've been trying to be a more responsible person, and it's been really, really hard. I wake myself up at 5 a.m. every morning, I grind myself into the ground, I gave up training with the competition team and my boxing team. For a while there, I barely saw any of my friends, and I did all of it on purpose for the sake of becoming a more responsible man. However, the more I did the things that I thought made me responsible, the harder my life seemed to get, the more miserable I ended up feeling. And I began to question myself, why the fuck would anyone do this to themselves? And I really had to dig deep to fully articulate to myself, what does it actually mean to be a responsible person? Because it can't just be responsibilities. It can't just be a list of things that you need to do and you need to accomplish. There has to be something more than that. And it can't be this miserable all the time. So in hopes of finding the answer to my dilemma of my midlife crisis at 24, I turned to fiction. Specifically this anime called Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Gang. Peak, absolute peak anime. If you have not watched it, go watch it. It is peak. Spoiler warning ahead. In this anime, the world operates off one principle: the law of equivalent exchange. It's exactly what it sounds like. To use your power as an alchemist, you have to give something of equal value up in return. Nothing in this world is for free. And if you cannot give something of equal exchange, you will suffer for it, as seen by the main character, Edward, and his brother, Alphonse. Now, when trying to apply that logic to real life, though, it ended up making me more fucking depressed. Because that means I'm always giving something up. That means there's always a price to pay. And in this economy, it feels more true than ever before. Why can't shit be for free? Why is it that I always have to sacrifice something? Why am I always losing? But upon further inspection, I think I was asking the wrong question. It's not, why am I always losing, but what it is that I'm actually paying for. I know that's a very simple reframing of context. That reframing is very simple, and that's the point. But for someone like me, and if you're anything like me, the most simple of lessons take you the most effort and work to get to. When I was 15 years old, I fell into the worst traps any young man could fall into. I fell into the manosphere, and I thought it was fucking stupid that shit was gonna help me. The messaging that I had absorbed from that space was that if I was not miserable as a man, if I was not fucking suffering and in constant pain, I was not being responsible. Therefore, I wasn't a real man. And I'm not saying challenging yourself is bad. That's great, phenomenal. I love challenging myself. However, I had turned it into something ugly. And I always felt I had an empathetic nature for others. So not only did I think that life should be miserable to be a man, I always felt the need to be responsible for others. Like I needed to carry other people. I tried to be a hero, and I developed a hero complex in trying to save everyone, to be the guy that everyone can rely on, to be everything, and to be a savior in a way. It got to a boiling point where I recently had to sit with myself and sit with the fact that I was in a relationship with someone for 4.5 years, constantly giving and constantly not looking after for what I thought I needed. And it took a crisis that was internal that led me to think, I think I'm doing things wrong and I'm not taking care of myself. And it wrecked my ego, because I had to face the uncomfortable truth to myself that I had built up this bravado to protect myself, to protect my ego, and to protect my emotions from what it is that I was actually dealing with. That in trying to save people and trying to be something for everyone else, I ended up hurting people instead. I had to end a 4.5-year relationship. I had to start putting me first. How can I be responsible for anyone else when I wasn't even responsible for myself? When I was neglecting the one person I'll always live with for the rest of my life. It got to the point where I actually started therapy not long ago. And My therapist had told me something, a foreign concept that was truly like mind boggling to me. He was like, you need to be more mindful. And I'm just sitting there thinking, what the fuck does it mean to be mindful? Like that just sounds like some jargon, some like sissy jargon, And but when you grow up an immigrant like me, and when you grow up with a disability, and you grow up bullied, and you grow up with any form of struggle that makes you feel different or ostracized from your fellow peers, you develop a form of people pleasing. You develop a habit where if you do this thing, then it's going to cost you this thing. I couldn't afford to be a reckless teenager because I thought that it would cost me my future, which it could have. Like I could have ended up pretty badly with the system. Or if I did this thing, people would get upset with me, therefore I'd get picked on. And I had never considered the damage that was doing to me because I was always constantly trying to look for how to please others, but never fully looking about what it is that I need. And I developed a coping mechanism, a sort of avoidance, to where I would say, I can't deal with this right now because I have to do this. I can't deal with the emotions of someone else because I have to work. I can't deal with my own emotions because if I do, I won't be able to go boxing. This avoidant tendency to just shove my emotions away, that ended up meaning that I was everywhere, but which actually meant I was nowhere because I was half-assing everything because I wasn't really choosing any of it. Things that I enjoyed ended up becoming a hiding place as a way of avoiding the uncomfortable truth of myself and to myself. And that truth is that I have limits. I'm not Goku, I'm not Superman, and I'm human. I have limits, I have weaknesses. I can't keep everyone happy. And pretending that I could was not a sign of strength. It simply was just a lie that I was telling myself. And when I began to accept that, and when I began to really shatter that bravado, that need to feel cool and nonchalant and never tell anyone about my problems and to always be stone cold and always have it under control, that's when I fully started accepting myself for who I am. That doesn't mean I'm done trying to be good and I'm done trying to push myself. I always want to push myself. Growth is always something that I will always strive for. And to help people, to be noble, is something that I deeply, deeply, deeply value. I always want to help people. But I'm learning that it has to come from a place of abundance rather than a cup running dry trying to be a savior for others. And that's when I started really clicking with the show Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. In the show, the main character Edward faces an entity called Truth. Truth in this anime is everything, it's everyone, he's you, he's me, and he represents himself as this creepy looking like entity because the truth is always uncomfortable. In the climax of the show, Edward faces Truth, and he's faced with a choice. He has to make an exchange. In exchange for his brother's body, Edward gives up his alchemy. And Truth questions him. He's like, "Are you sure? Think carefully now." And Edward tells him, "Who even needs alchemy when I have them?" And that really, really is very, very thematic because he's giving up the one thing that made him a genius in the world. He's giving up the thing that made him a prodigy, the thing that made him special. And he chose to walk away whole and accept his limits as a human and accept his limits and weaknesses as a human to be with the ones he loves instead. Now, the anime makes a brutal contrast to the opposite choice of not accepting your weaknesses and not being accepting of your flaws. The main villain, Father, he ends up facing the same entity of Truth. His ultimate goal was to be a godlike being, no weaknesses, no limits, no need of anyone else. And because he failed, Truth ends up completely erasing him. It's pretty brutal and it's really sad. And upon further inspection in my own life, in trying to control and calculate the outcomes of things, and in trying to be a hero for others, and in neglect of my own weaknesses and my own limits and my own needs, In a small way, I was trying to be my own version of God. And the second I stopped fighting my own reality and started living in it, that's when I started to grasp what it means to be truly responsible. So after all that, after all that in-depth analysis of myself and anime and his emotional turmoil and trauma learning and processing and all that shit, I came to a conclusion. Having responsibilities is not the same as being responsible. Anyone can carry a list of obligations that they need to attend to. True responsibility comes from the ability to face your life honesty in its full picture, the good and the ugly, without condemning yourself for it, to take ownership of what you find, and to know what you're willing to trade to move forward. The cool thing about that is that these trades aren't always forever either. Oftentimes we kind of dramatize what it is that we're giving up because we think of everything in terms of permanence. Just because I don't train with the competition team in my boxing gym anymore doesn't mean I'll never get my first fight. Doesn't mean I'll never get to spar again. Simply, in this season of my life, I chose to put it down, and I'll come back to it when I'm ready. Think of it like a good book that you picked up off the shelf. You read it, and you're taking a break from it to focus on other things. That doesn't mean that you're never going to read that book ever again. You just put it back on the shelf, and you'll get back to it whenever you're ready. Now, some exchanges are for good. That is true. But I find that in faith in God, whatever is truly meant for you and whatever is truly meant for your life will find its way back to you without you needing to force it. And to go back to the question I posed myself to the beginning, rather, instead of asking myself, why am I losing so much, but what it is that I'm paying for, I'm learning it's not about being the man who's everything for everyone. It's about being there for the people who I'd give it up all for. I started making deliberate choices so that these things don't get whatever's left over of me. I started trading my afternoons so that I could either build my empire that I'm doing right now, or I could connect with the people that I care about. I wake up at 5 a.m. so that I can do that. These exchanges are what it is that I'm buying, and that price is fully worth it. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is extremely, extremely hard. It's been a very emotionally taxing past few months. And I'm simultaneously scared that I'm doing this wrong. I'm simultaneously worried that this video might seem fucking stupid to somebody. And yet, at the same time, it's also the most hopeful thing that I've ever done. It's the thing that has allowed me to gain a crazy amount of wisdom XP points. And that's okay, because multiple things can be true at once, and the same thing could be for your life. This could be simultaneously the hardest thing for you to deal with, and yet could be the thing that sows the seeds for greatness later on for you. I stopped thinking of responsibility as like this imagery of a boulder that you carry on your shoulders, and more so a light switch that you simply have to pay to turn on. So I'll leave you with these questions that I'm still answering. What are you paying for? What truth are you avoiding? What did you set down this season? And what are you carrying it all for? Figuring out your them is when I think where true responsibility begins. I hope you guys like this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.